Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Conscious Living Spirit Center. It's another beautiful day out there for those who are around Florida, because there is some sun after a couple weeks where we had lots of rain. It's great to see the sunshine strong, and it's always good to be here. I'm just looking at the chat to make sure that technology is working. Susanna, good morning. Juan, great to have you with us. Welcome. Today we have a reflection of encouragement, obviously from our beloved Master Jesus, and that's the proposal for this morning. Always important to reflect and boost our encouragement, especially during these challenging times. And we will talk about it today. Before we get into the lecture, thank you, Susanna, for letting me know that everything is up and running in a good way. I would like to invite everyone for an initial prayer, since I will do the opening. I'm going to get you guys too tired if I do the reading and do the lecture and all. So I'm going to skip the lecture and the reading, and we'll jump right into the prayer so we can all connect and go along the reflections of this morning. So let us all close our eyes and bring our minds and our hearts together, slowing it down for a few moments so that we can allow ourselves to connect with God, our Creator, in gratitude for another day that we are in this blessed planet, going through the experiences that can help us to be better, going through the opportunities to amend the things that we may have disrupted in the past, going through the path of building relationships, making new friends, and expanding our spiritual family. Thank you, God, for the opportunity to be here with the resources at hand, having the peace to be reflecting in ourselves as immortal beings. We also would like to thank our protector spirits or guardian angels for their continuous support behind the scenes, anonymously, inspiring us every day and even today, for their encouragement to stop and connect and make these reflections. Master Jesus, please help us to open our hearts to the reflections that we are going to do this morning. And may the blessings that we are already receiving may spread to all of our family members in our homes, and to our friends, to our brothers and sisters around the world who also need so much. Thank you, and so be it. All right, thank you, everyone. Vivi, welcome as well. And as we were saying a few minutes ago, today's reflection is from, obviously, the gospel, as we always speak about in light of Spiritism, and a message that Jesus brings to the disciples encouraging them to cheer up, right? It was a time when the disciples were pretty sad when Jesus revealed to them the things that would happen. And it was a grim picture. And he told them, have good cheer, take heart, cheer up. And he explains things, and he actually exemplified things more than words. So this message we felt was so important personally, but very important for all of us, especially considering the moments that we are living right now, right? Don't need to say much about the pandemic. We are all tired and things are not looking good, right? So many people losing their lives due to COVID, people losing their jobs, losing loved ones, having our relationships even affected because of the anxiety, the stress, and depression. So much going on. And there are days that is really, it's hard to be uplifted, right? To keep a positive outlook on things. And it's not only a health crisis or a COVID pandemic. Divaldo Franco speaks very often about the moral pandemic that it's installed in the atmosphere, in the spiritual atmosphere, in the psychological atmosphere of humanity at the moment, right? We are talking about, you turn the TV, you go on the street, sometimes you feel it yourselves. Discrimination and division and intolerance from all aspects, right? From sex orientation, racial division, religious, or different beliefs. It's a tough moment for us, and it's affecting all of us. And there are days that are hard, especially when that hits us close. And it's interesting because at the same time, social media is out there, technology is out there, bringing us together and exposing things to a level that we have never seen in humanity, right? The speed and the volume of information coming to us. And it's not only the teenagers, but we are also who are teenagers for a longer time, or young people for a longer time. We also got used to social media. So we are always there scrolling in our phones and seeing what's going on with our friends, the friends of friends. And we are having a hard time with what's happening, but there seems to be people that are not affected by this at all. We see people that we feel they have been anointed by God and blessed because they live in complete happiness. They are always enjoying the beach. They are always in the nice restaurants, taking those fancy pictures. It's kind of every day. They have beautiful hairs, right? The guys with all the muscles, not the bones. Why I got the bones and they got the muscles. And we're always looking at that scenario where every day seems to be, a vacation, a paradise, and we working hard and still having bills to pay. And all that just adds up to this green scenario that is all around us. And we look at ourselves and we ask, well, why I'm not at that beach in that situation every day, going out on restaurants every day. Why am I like this? Why am not accomplished in business like those people, right? Had God forgotten me? What's wrong with me? And those things make things really look harder than they are. And we ask ourselves, right? Is this really a reality? Or people are taking those micro moments and make it look like every day is paradise, right? So we actually asked Allan Kardec based on his research. For those who don't know, Allan Kardec was the French educator, scholar, and scientist who invested a great part of his life consolidating the Spiritist doctrine. And we owe to him this marvelous body of works that we actually have. And Allan Kardec asked the spirits precisely on the question 920. Can people enjoy complete happiness while on earth like we see on Facebook? I'm kidding. There was no Facebook at that time, so this is not here. But can people enjoy complete happiness while on earth? And the spirits reply, no. No. So that complete happiness that we see on Facebook, on social media, my friends, that may not be reality, or that is part of the story, right? Because the coin has always two sides. So we only see the bright side of the story. And why? Why can we have complete happiness? Because life has been given to them, to us, humanity, as either a trial or an expiation. So the challenges are part of life. And it's up to them, to humanity, to us, to mitigate their misfortunes and be as happy as possible while on earth. So we can be as happy as possible. But let's not fool ourselves. And we often repeat that, especially to the younger generation, right? That really takes it really hard, because it looks like the grass is always green on the neighbor's house, right? Ours is always in bad shape. So that's number one. The second and final question I would like to read here is the question 921. Allan Kardec wasn't satisfied with that because he thought, then we are really in trouble. Don't we have a little break? And he asks, we can understand that people will be happy on earth when humanity as a whole is finally transformed. So he's talking about the whole planetary transition, right? After Earth becomes a better world, not anymore worlds of trials and expiation, there will be happiness on Earth. But until then, is it possible for anyone to enjoy relative happiness? Can we have a break? Can we have those moments of happiness? Is that possible? Relative happiness? Most of the time, that's what the spirits answer. Most of the time, people are the artisans of their own happiness. So we are the ones creating our own unhappiness. The law of cause and effect, right? Nothing that happens with us, it's by accident. Or God, wants to take vengeance on us, or God is upset, therefore we were the first in his line of sight and he's punishing us. No. If something is happening, we have a part on it. So we are the artisan of our own unhappiness. If we would practice the law of God, we would spare ourselves from many misfortunes and enjoy a state of happiness that is as great as their existence on such a dense plane would allow. So the whole suffering is in our hands. If we choose to follow, to practice the law of God, then we would spare ourselves from many misfortunes and enjoy happiness. So this gives us encouragement that we are not alone. We are not the only ones. We are not abandoned. If you look at our street, and if we go to every single house in our street, or even in the most luxurious place in South Florida or around the world, everyone has their share of trials and expiations. Even if we don't post on social media how our hair looks like today, or what are we really eating today, or how stressed and sad we are today. It's happening because that's the nature of our planet, right? Let's reflect on Jesus, who is the purest spirit who has ever been on this planet. right? He left the safe harbor of the house of the fisherman, a peaceful setting where the people who loved him and wanted to listen to him, right, and follow him were. And he left that safe harbor to the open, stormy seas of humanity for the glorious exemplification, glorious but painful. And we remember the milestones of his life, right? With the Gethsemane when he was handed over to the authorities. We remember the imprisonment. We remember the Praetorium where he was judged and beaten, the Via Dolorosa, or the pathway of suffering, where he had to carry the cross, and we remember the Calvary and the crucifixion. Suffering, right? Great suffering, exemplifying to us. And he was pure. He had no anymore residuals of law, cause, and effect that he deserved. He needed to go through those experiences. No, he chose to go through those experiences to exemplify us. What is the extent of love and forgiveness and understanding and resignation we will reach one day, and that he reached it. So he went through all those sufferings, and he didn't need to suffer. Then when we look at our lives, what should we expect, right? Would we be completely exempt from those trials and sufferings, right? Or what people post on social media, are they exempt? No, no one is exempt. If we are on this planet, we are all going through those hardships ourselves, right? So it is important that as we go through our journey, that we don't abandon our path, our share of sacrifice, our share of renunciation, our share of frustrations and disappointments. It is part of life. And I saw one day a little chart like those heart echocardiograms. I think that you see the heartbeat in the little chart going up and down. It feels like our lives, it composes of ups and downs, right? Very quick ups, sometimes longer downs, or, it's always up and down. And that means we are alive. That's a blessing that we are alive, right? And it's also a sign that we are going through a renovation. I don't know about you, if you ever have undertaken a home renovation. How does it look and feel? Especially when we are living in the house while the renovation is happening. A total mess, and dust and noise. And we look at the whole room or bathroom or kitchen tore apart and say, my goodness, I lost my house. Will this ever come back into place? Right? And then, you clean up the other rooms, and then the crew come in with their boots all dirty and mess up all again. It's a nightmare, right? It is a nightmare. But at the end, we have a beautiful result, right? So is life. We go through all this hardship, but there is a destination that is exactly what Jesus showed us. After the crucifixion, he came back giving us the message of immortality and happiness that awaits all of us. And he's just saying, hang in there. This will pass, right? Have good cheer, because it will pass. Those hardships will look like and feel like a lightning when we have those big giant storms here in South Florida that I came to appreciate again. Our hardship during an entire existence will look like a millisecond lightning comparing to the time of immortality that we have ahead of us. But when we are living it, it is hard. And there are times that we feel like giving up. I think we all have been there. And that's why Jesus, in multiple occasions, brings us that message, right? It's like the caterpillar that goes into that transformation that probably goes into a lot of trials and hardship and discomfort and maybe pain to become that beautiful butterfly. And that's the renewal that we are all going through, so that we become better, so that we learn how to forgive, we learn to accept, we learn to love ourselves and others. It's not about only others. So the times that we are right now, it's a time where we need to rethink our values. And in times of renovations, right, and transformations like this, Emmanuel, in the book Living in Spring, in the lesson 59, he reminds us about the words of eternal life of Jesus, the importance of them. He says that we must keep the words of eternal life in us, for they are the sanctifiers, they are the purifiers of the spirit in daily life. So the words of Jesus, the words of gospel, spiritism, dear friends, it's not something to only share and reflect and use as a powerful tool when we are here together in our meetings or within the Spirit Center. Most importantly is when we leave these meetings and we leave the Spirit Center. If when we are at work doing the dishes and cleaning the house and talking to our partners and our kids, going through the challenges, when we are there on the hospital, when we are there at work, or when we are on the street in traffic, the words of eternal life are the sanctifiers of the Spirit in our daily lives, and most of all, our sure mental support in the difficult times of great renewal. And these are great times of difficult times of great renewals. This is what we are living. And that's what we are doing here. Reminding yourselves of those words of eternal life. Because truthfully speaking, we know them. We heard about them before, right? And we need to constantly remind ourselves. And this is a passage when John captured exactly what Jesus told to disciples when he revealed all the trials that would happen with him. The persecution, the crucifixion, the humiliations, and his death. And the disciples were all down, right? He said, I have told you these things so that in me you have peace. Because they were all desperate, right? And he was calm because he knew that whatever happened, Jesus himself would remain alive, right? He would give us the example, but no one could hurt him. No one could kill him. No one could impede him to accomplish his mission. And he wanted the disciples to feel that powerful faith that he had, right? And that's the path that we have been going through right now to develop that faith. He said, in this world on earth, you will have tribulations, but take heart, have good cheer, or cheer up. I overcome the world. I overcome the world. I endured the world. I resisted the world, the temptations, the sufferings, the trials. And he said, if I do these things, you can do those things and much more, talking about, the cures and the work that he did, and also the exemplification, the renunciation, the forgiveness. We are on our path to learn all this so that we can do those things as well. It may sound sometimes very far-fetched, right, to think about this, or sometimes we even doubt, right, about Jesus and spirituality. And Spiritism invites us to build a rational faith. Right? We don't need to accept because someone said so. Allan Kardec always invited us, ask your questions. Make sure your faith is a solid faith based on your thinking. God gave us the intelligence so we can use it, right? To develop that intelligence so that we develop our moral beliefs in solid basis. And thinking about the words of eternal life, it's so important because it gives us that solid base when the storms come our way. Or else, when things are hard, we give up quite easily, right? Our friend Jara the other day gave a beautiful lecture, and he told the story of Bartolomeo or Nathaniel. It's on the book Boa Nova, Good News, from Chico Xavier and Humberto de Campos. I'm not going to repeat her lecture, but the story very succinctly about Bartolomeo, who was one of the most dedicated apostles of Jesus. He was one of the 12 and was one of the most dedicated ones, in the words of Humberto de Campos and Chico Xavier. But he was known as the sad disciple. He was always sad. And Jesus, who observed and knew well his disciples, and he knows well each of us, one day he took an opportunity to have a private conversation with Bartolomeo or Nathaniel. And Nathaniel opened his heart, right? Expressing why he was so sad and very often or constantly, right? And, a few things he shared with Jesus. He had lost his mother and he was grieving. He was unconsoled with that. And he said, Jesus, I love your messages and everything you say, but I lost my mother. Isn't that a reason for me to be sad? Right? And then he spoke about how his mother was the only person who shared the same principles, the same affinity with him. And he said also about his family, no one on my family understands me. My father, my brothers, they all criticize me. I am misunderstood. Isn't that reason to be sad? It's hard. And then he spoke about his business. He was a fisherman, but he had a lot of failure on his business. People often wouldn't pay him in a fair way. They would take advantage of him. He wasn't successful in his business. He was also sad about that. And every time he shared something, right, Jesus obviously would show him the spiritual perspective. Like when he spoke about his mother who passed and he was sad and hurting, Jesus said, yeah, it's natural that we feel that way because we miss them. But Bartolomeo, who is lost in the universe, if God, our beloved Father, watch over every single one of us, and life goes on after the material life. No one is lost, right? And about the victors of the business, Bartolomeo, this is temporary. What is best, to be victorious in business and lose your soul by choosing the wrong path, right? Which is going to be what is going to persist for your immortal life. So he showed Bartolomeo the other perspective. And for the first time, he truly understood the message of the gospel that Jesus brought. It may not solve our problems today as we wish. Take this pain. No, but help me to understand this pain in perspective of things and give us the strength and the perseverance to move on. And Bartolomeo left that night, went to his family, and everyone received him with open arms and kissed him. No, his father expelled him from home, and his brothers threatened to beat him. He went to work, and people underpaid him in the same way. But he changed his attitude. He experienced that good cheer that Jesus was talking about, right? Not a full laugh of hardship, no. But the joy that the gospel invites us is to overcome those challenges and continue moving on with our lives, happy that we have the opportunity, as Divaldo says, in this moment of transition of the planet, we are here contributing to our own transformation, but contributing maybe to others as well if we can. It is a blessed moment. That is the joy that the gospel invites us. The joy that our trials will pass. Will pass. We just need to persist one more day and another day and another day and bring Jesus and his positive message, inspiring, consoling message to us more often than none. Because we distance ourselves from him, we distance ourselves from God, but they are always there for us, right? So the message of the gospel, the good news of the gospel, it's really that word of encouragement that God looks after us. And these trials, they do have a reason for it, but they will also pass. But, Marcos, I like what you're saying, but you are not on my skin. Why we may think that way. You don't know what I'm going through, what I have been through. So it's hard. I can't do that. We doesn't flip a switch and become inspired like Bartolomeo from one moment to the other. So yeah, we know that by experience. It takes it's like working out. I know some of us here used to go to the gym, right? And stretch ourselves. First, second day in the gym, it's painful, right? Second day, we feel we're gonna die. We can move our arms, we can move our legs. We're like a robot. But after a while, we get used to it, and we started to feel better. With ourselves as spirits, we need to do some workout as well for change. And it's also not easy. It's also painful. And we also feel like giving up. But we can try, and we can do it day by day, starting small. So André Luiz and Chico Xavier in the book Na Era do Espírito, or in the Age of Spirit, they give us a few tips. So very practical. This is for all of us, very practical. How can we start making this change to develop more resilience, to be able to overcome our challenges, our trials, our pains, our sorrows, or disappointments, or frustrations like Jesus did? Can we do it? Yes. Right? He is our model. The benefactor spirits told Allan Kardec in the question 625, what is the model that God gave us? And the model is someone or something that we want to build to be like, right? We want to develop ourselves to be like him. It's Jesus. So it's not hypocrisy to say he is our model, one day we'll be like him. It will take a long time, yeah, but he is the model. So what can we do to get to that level? It's step by step, little by little, day by day. So a few things that André Luiz shared here in his guidelines for happiness. How can we have a bit more moments of happiness in this life? There are 4 things here, and then Joana de Angelis complement with the 5th one. So number 1, cultivate thoughts, positive thoughts, and speak of goodness. So we think about social media, there's so much negativity, right? And we need to do our part. Who are we following? Are we following people that are negative and criticizing of everything? There's a lot of people there. Sometimes we are like that, right? So if that is not happening, maybe do an unfollow. Give yourself a break, a distance from negativity, so that we can start nurturing positive thoughts, especially about ourselves. And very often we think really bad about ourselves because of our failures, because we are not like so and so. And we need to remember that we are creations of God, and God does not create anything useless. God doesn't create anything that has no purpose, no meaning. So we should feel really good about having that relationship with God and being created and being alive. And we are here to learn to love ourselves, to develop self-compassion. I think 2020 is a year that is teaching many of us, and I speak by experience, to be more tolerant with ourselves. Very important. And cultivating positive thoughts is part of it. We got to be vigilant and fight that good fight, right? Because negative thoughts will always come. And as they come, we need to let them go. And we need to remind ourselves of the goodness that we have in ourselves. And the same thing, speak about positive things. And I always remember Chico Xavier, when people come to him criticizing others, he always had something positive to say to counterbalance the negativity. And it was nothing, it wasn't a full statement or a false statement or hypocrisy. No, he always finds something positive about someone, no matter what. And why is that? Because we always have something positive. We are a mix. We are imperfect beings moving towards our perfection. So we do have a mix of vices and virtues, positive habits and negative habits. So we can always see the bright side. It's about choice. It's training. Oh, it's too hard. Yes, it's hard, especially if we build the habit of complaining and criticizing, right? And looking for the negative things. If we look for it, we'll find. Seek and you'll find. Seek for the negative things, you will find. Seek for the positive things, you will find. Oh, that person can have anything positive. Oh, she does. Oh, I don't have anything positive. Yes, we do. So that's number one. Second, smile more. Smile more. And I like this because sometimes things are so heavy and difficult for us, and we are having such a hard time that we become a dark cloud. We have a dark cloud over our heads, and we are unable to see the light at the end of the tunnel. We are not able to see anything positive. When we are feeling like that, friends, and again, I was one that never believed so much in going to a psychologist, right? Myself or among my family. I grew up in a pretty harsh environment in the farm, and there was no such thing about bullying, those things, and we resolve our problems and we would move on. But I learned that I had depression in my life several times, and I did not know that that was depression. I come to understand what it is. So if we are having a hard time in smiling to someone else, or even smiling to us in the mirror, we should observe ourselves. And if we need help, we should seek help, right? We should seek help, because we should smile at ourselves here and there and smile at others to give others some encouragements, because no one likes to be around someone negative all the time. It doesn't feel good. And sometimes I speak by experience again. I was so negative that people started to avoid me. And then I was thinking, something wrong with me. It wasn't anything wrong with me. It was something wrong with what I was doing, feeding that negativity. But I needed to talk to someone about what I was feeling, because I needed help, and I was making them feel negative simply because I was talking to the wrong people. So when we are feeling like that, right, if we're feeling depressed, we need to see a doctor. Maybe it's a case for medication. Maybe it's a case for psychological treatment. But we can also go to a spirit center and ask for a fraternal meeting and talk to someone about the spiritual side of our hardship. So we need to find the right people to talk to. Not smiling for others, not trying to be positive, doing your best to be positive is not the answer. Because sometimes we are going after someone who is equally depressed and sad, and they can help us. So smile more, so we can give a little bit of encouragement, the good cheer that we receive from the gospel, from Jesus. Our smile invites hope, invites encouragement, invites acceptance. But become that negative person with everyone, they can help. Many people can help us because they are going to their own struggles. So our smile can be a service that we are doing for Jesus, because it invites hope in others. And if we are unable to do that, we need to ask for help to the right people, not to my friend who is equally depressed. Right? That's a very important lesson to all of us here. Third is, if you have something good to do for someone or for yourself, do it today. Don't postpone. Again, these are tips from André Luiz, okay? And I love that he's saying that, because we all know the neuroscience of happiness. When we do something good for someone, we feel good because our brain gets a shower of dopamine and it makes us feel good. It's like working out. When we do an exercise, we feel good because we have the hormones flushing our brain with good hormones, right? And it makes us feel good. And there's that saying, motion drives emotion. So maybe even going for a walk can help. I don't want to go, but I will push myself and I'll go even for a 5 minutes walk. Don't expect to run a 5K. No, start small, right? So do something good for you or for someone else, because by doing so, even pushing ourselves a little, we will feel a bit better, right? And fourth, if we experience failure, disappointments, losses, right, we should reflect, what is the lesson there? Because everyone goes through that in life. So we shouldn't crucify ourselves because of that and feel the worst of the worst, as we often feel. But we should think about what's the lesson and remind ourselves that the sun shines after darkness. So this will pass. Let's carry the lesson with us, right? So those are some tips. Maybe we all can pick one thing of all those and try them, because sometimes all of this is so overwhelming, but maybe pick one thing. Maybe this one. Joana de Angelis, in the book Liberta-te do Mal, or Free Yourself from Evil, from Divaldo Franco too, she says that human beings need mental silence. Very important. When do we have mental silence? We don't have it very often, right? So she makes a reflection on the history of the different cultures that we see in the Old Testament, and personalities of the New Testament, of the Gospel. And she reminds us of the desert, that mental silence. The desert is a good analogy of it. And she reflects about Moses and the Hebrew people living in the desert for such a long time, finding themselves in the promised land, that spiritual land. John the Baptist, right, who came before Jesus baptizing, spent a great deal of time in the desert. Jesus, he also spent time in the desert. Okay, someone who went through a transformation like we are going through right now, saving the perspectives, right? Paul of Tarsus spent 3 years after he met Jesus and become converted to Christianity, to follow Jesus. He went to the oasis of Dan and spent 3 years. Why this desert analogy, or this time away? It's important because it helps us to shift perspectives from the exterior perspective of what's happening in the world to what's happening in our inner world. Why I am in pain? Why this bothers me so much? Is it because that person was truly hard, or is it because it hurts my pride? Or is it because it hurts me, this situation, because I need to stop doing what I want for me and do something for someone that I love, which is maybe an indication of selfishness. So this time away, this time of silence, helps us to learn more about ourselves, right? Like we see in the question 919 of the Spirit's book. It's the best, most effective way for us to transform ourselves, to become better, to better ourselves. Know thyself. And we have a hard time stopping and reflecting ourselves because we often find things that we don't want to see, right? And it's so important. So this is another invitation for us to find happiness, is to get to know ourselves, our limitations, our strengths, and accept who we are. But not to resign to that, but accept where we are and remind ourselves of the words of eternal life of Jesus that tells us we can become better with every day. We can overcome these challenges. And even this inner reflection, dear friends, can guide us to think, come up with the conclusion, yes, I need some help. I may need to go to the doctor. I may need to go and seek for a psychologist. I may need to send an email or a Facebook message to the Spirit Center and say, is there someone that I can talk to about what's happening with me? Because I need help. Because we often feel alone with our trials. We often think about giving up, and we can give up because our problems we will carry them wherever we go. There's no death. That's what Allan Kardec taught us through the benefactor spirits through his work. Death is not the answer. It's not the final for trials. We are postponing and increasing our difficulties. So we need to seek help with those who can help us. We need to seek more the positive thoughts. In mental silence, it is very important. And some people confuse solitude, that mental silence. We can say it is solitude, it's to be with yourself. It doesn't mean to be lonely, because loneliness is a sense of isolation. Sometimes we have so many people around and we feel lonely because we are isolated, we are closed. The mental silence here that Joanna is saying is about solitude. It's to be with us, to be alone, but not feel isolated. It's to feel connected with our guardian angels or protector spirits, feel connected with Jesus, feel connected with God, feel that we are part of a family, blood ties, or most importantly, even a spirit of family, a group of friends, right? A spirit center, or an organization where we volunteer or work, and feel connected, even if we are alone. In that time alone, help us to strengthen our roots into our immortal essence. Because if we see ourselves in the eyes of materialistic thinking, yeah, we feel that our problems are too hard, and if I end my existence, I end my problems. And that's not true. That's not going to happen. Strengthening our roots into the immortal message of Jesus in the words of eternal lives can help us to withstand the winds, the trials. Like a tree with solid roots, you can have harsh storms and the hurricanes around, and the tree will still stand because the roots are deep and are solid. So in summary, friends, Paul of Tarso reminds us, wear the helmet of salvation, which means watch our thoughts, cultivate positive thoughts. Let's visualize a spiritual helmet protecting your thoughts. Whenever there's a negative thought coming, let it go. Let's cultivate positives, because very often the negative thoughts that we have are not ours. Allan Kardec asked the spirits, right? Do they influence in our thoughts, in our lives? And the spirits answer, they influence more than what you think, and very often they are the ones who guides you. What kind of spirits were enabled to guide us? Our guardian angel, who really want one thing only, to help us. Or the inferior spirits, the negative spirits, the rebellious and spirits that are out there feeding thoughts of revenge and negativity, right? So that's number one from Paul, the helmet of salvation. And salvation means free yourselves from the negativity. And then he talks about the shield of faith, because rational faith gives us the ability to trust in the higher power of the Creator, who watches us every day. Even if things are hard, we harness that power through that silence, through that vigilance of our thoughts. And he said that shield of faith can neutralize invisible darts that intoxicate our hearts. Sometimes we throw those negative darts in ourselves because we don't accept our imperfections, that we don't accept that we have defects, because we expect us to be pure. The greatest lesson for us, I would say, is when Jesus said, love your neighbor as you love yourselves. We expect to change the world, to change the organization that we work, to change the spirit center that we lead, to change the world. But look at what Jesus said. Love your neighbor, love the world as you love yourself. So if I'm unable to forgive myself, to accept myself, to understand myself, how can I accept the world? How can I forgive the world? I'm going to expect the world to be as perfect. I expect me to be perfect. Right? So it is that deep dive in ourselves first. And this shield of rational faith helps us to reflect that, right? And first put all this in practice in our hearts, enabling us gradually to expand to our family, to our neighbors, to our friends, and eventually one day to the whole world. And the final reminder, right? A little post-it note for us is, let's remember that all the tribulations and trials that that always produce strength and patience. The difficulties that we are going through will make us stronger. Like Jesus, look at how many trials in what humanity did with Jesus. He emerged in total happiness, in his splendor of hope and trust in God, in communion with God. And he loved and forgave everyone and had patience and acceptance with everyone. He went through so much hardship, but he emerged in the other side, satisfied that he accomplished his mission. He left us his example. And when we go through trials in life, that's an important reminder for us that if we want, we will emerge in the other side as well, better than we started our journey. It's the law of progress. We always go ahead. We never go backward. If we want, we may, if we decided to stop, and then that's when the trials make it worse, make it increase, right? So, dear friends, that was the reflection for us. I hope we can all pick one of these things that we can incorporate into our habits and put an effort to cultivate some of these positive habits and increase our strengths to persevere. And we should always think small, one step at a time, like baby steps, and think about one day. The final reminder here is that we should welcome the challenges of each day that comes our way, because they are there to make us better. They are not there to annihilate us, to destroy us, because we are immortal and we have a loving Father that just wants us to be happy. So those trials are to help us to look inside and do that renovation that we are all invited to do. And if we need help, ask for help. And the encouragement for everyone here, as we don't have our activities in person in the Spirit Center, if you are in need, send us a message through Facebook, or go to our website, send us a message to the form or the email, and I'm sure someone will be there to talk to you. And most importantly, let's remind us daily to pray, to have that mental silence through meditation or prayer, and connect with God. And with this, I would like to invite everyone for a short final prayer. Beloved Master Jesus, we thank you for all your sacrifice and exemplification, so that we may have the hope, the strength, the encouragement, and the proof that our hearts and our minds, there is still so immature need to develop the faith in our immortal reality, to strengthen our faith in God, our beloved Father, who is always supporting and loving and assisting us, even if we still don't feel it, we don't perceive it because of our busy minds. Please, dear Master, allow the good spirits to visit our homes and assist all the incarnate and discarnate spirits who are part of our families, who are present in our homes. May we all experience the same joy and strength and encouragement that Bartholomew or Nathanael experience. May we all dedicate a little bit of time every day to be with you, because you know you're always with us. Thank you, and so be it. Dear friends, one more time, thank you for connecting with us. We really hope these reflections gives all of us a little encouragement so we can continue in this path together and never isolating ourselves, never being alone. We are blessed with technology. We just need to put that technology for good use. We wish you a great and blessed week ahead, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you, everyone.